Hey, real estate investors. I am so excited to share with you today the #1 tax saving tip that you can do to help build your retirement faster than ever. If you guys have never heard of this, I am so excited to share with you about the self-directed IRA with Checkbook control. This is a controllable IRA account, and if you aren't using this, you are losing out on thousands and tens of thousands of dollars in month in gains that you could be making inside of your retirement accounts to get you to retirement that much faster. Let me tell you a little bit more about it as we dive in. If you guys don't know me, my name is Scott Royal Smith. I'm an attorney as well as real estate investor. I founded a company called Royal Legal Solutions. We're a one-stop shop that helps real estate investors with their asset protection, their tax, and their estate planning, all in one cohesive house with one cohesive system. We've currently helped about 2,000 clients all over the country in all 50 states in every single type of asset class. And today what we're talking about is going to be the self-directed IRA with Checkbook control. This is the #1 tool that if you're not using it right now, you're losing thousands and thousands of dollars. Okay, so IRAs are really, really great. Every year, the amount that you can contribute to these IRAs increases. So right now, it's about a $6,000 annual contribution limit, and that amount will increase over time, year over year. You can manage these IRA funds yourself with a simple self-directed IRA, and you can invest in almost anything. There's a few assets that are highly speculative that you're not allowed to invest in, but almost any type of asset and especially any type of real estate is acceptable to be able to invest in with your self-directed IRA. And best of all, your IRA contribution limits are separate than your 401k contribution limits. So if you're currently employed by somebody and you have a 401k, you can establish an IRA. You can establish these other types of retirement vehicles through your own companies that you can establish and therefore be able to max out on everything you can possibly contribute to your retirement accounts if that's one of your investment goals. Now, there's a lot of common myths about the self-directed IRA. Some people think they can't have more than one retirement account. That's absolutely false. Some people think that, hey, I won't be able to invest the money where I want to be able to invest it if I'm putting this into a retirement account. That's wrong as well. With the self-directed IRA, you're able to put the money wherever you want to do it, and you can direct it and control that. And some people also think that like diverting the funds into the retirement accounts are going to slow down their progress to financial freedom as well as to retirement. And that's absolutely not the case. Those savings, those funds, they grow exponentially faster than money that you're going to take out personally because you don't have to pay tax on it, which means you have more money. And the more money you have, when you're making a 10% return on more money, that is an exceptionally higher interest rate than you would if you had to pay taxes on it first and then invest the money. Some other people think like, hey, am I making enough money to think about retirement planning? And I can tell you that no matter what level of income that you have, you should be thinking about taking a portion of that income and investing it. And beginning to invest is a habit, and it also is one of those habits that the earlier you start it, the easier it becomes. And also, the trick to savings is about money compounded over time. So even if you're investing small amounts of money, you're building the habit of investing, and you're also being able to start to gather some momentum on some of that compounding interest that kicks off to pay off big ways as you get older. And now I'm thinking, and some people are saying, hey, I'm too young to think about retirement. And again, guys, this is one of the things that is you're never too young and it's never too early to start putting money into the retirement accounts because the nature in which that it can grow has exponential benefits over the long period of time. You know, a 10% return over 1 year isn't that big. 10% returns compounded every year over the course of 20 years. Now those are some really, really, really big returns. So some of the big benefits that you can get from the self-directed IRA is that you can grow your money faster by investing it tax-free. When you're investing with pre-tax dollars, you have more dollars. The government hasn't taken the dollars yet. So when you're investing and you're making those returns, you're actually getting exponentially higher returns because you have more dollars just in play because of that. Now, with a self-directed IRA with Checkbook control, you can also make all of your investments without having to consult a custodian, which means you get to control the investments, you get to sign documents, documents, you get to vet the deals, you're the one that gets to cut the checks to be able to purchase the asset, and you never have to involve a custodian as part of that process. So that gives you more control. If you have any questions about it, if you're partnered with Royal Legal Solutions, we have our attorney staff to be able to answer those questions and give you actual legal advice on what things you can invest and how that investment can work and what are the best practices and strategies that we see real estate investors and other investors making using some of these tools. Now, other people also don't know about is you can take all of your retirement funds that you have from, say, prior employers that are being held in those 401k accounts, and you can roll all of those into a self-directed IRA with checkbook control, which allows you to control all of those retirement funds. So instead of just putting them into an index fund or just setting it somewhere and you don't even know what it's doing, or maybe it's just sitting in cash on the sideline and it's not going anywhere, what you can do is roll all of those into your checkbook control IRA account and therefore be able to make all the investments that you want to and control all of your retirement funds there. And best of all, guys, these are very simple to easy to create and manage when they're formed in conjunction with Royal Legal Solutions. One is because we specialize in the best practices of how investors, and especially real estate investors, are forming and using these entities. And two is because we're a law firm, we're able to do things that no custodian can do, which is actually offer you investment as well as the legal advice that's needed around that particular investment, in line with what we think are the legal and best practices that we're seeing from all the clients that we work with. So the next question we ask ourselves, guys, big question here, is do you need a self-directed IRA? And it's all part of this bigger picture that we know here, right? We're all about how do we create our wealth? How do we optimize and save money on our taxes? After we can save money on our taxes, how are we protecting those assets that we're accumulating from types of lawsuits or other types of risks? And then we're looking at how do we create more time for our lives? How do we plan for our legacy? And then lastly, guys, it's the foundation for everything is our personal fulfillment, to say if we can take care of our money, we can take care of our families, and we can create time. How do we create overall a better sense of well-being? And that's the personal fulfillment that you receive after taking care of those crucial things. If you can take care of your money, you can protect your money and take care of your family, and you have time, guess what? Life is so much better. And the self-directed IRA with checkbook control is one of the tools that we use as part of this holistic picture to get you there. So just to give you a quick recap from 10,000 feet up on what retirement vehicles and tax saving vehicles are available for you, we have these here. This is where you have your solo 401k, which has up to $56,000 plus every year that you can contribute to it of any of the active income that you're making. Your self-directed IRA is another $6,000 plus. You have an HRA, which gives you about $10,000 plus depending upon a number of factors. You have your 529 education plan, which gives you about $6,000 or more to be able to contribute to those educational plans for your kids. And then we also look at real estate elections. So this is going to be if you are deemed to be a real estate professional. That means that you're actively working in the real estate industry for a certain number of hours every year. You can actually be able to write off a number of tax saving initiatives for being able to do that. And we're able to coach you through the particulars of that as well. But today what we're really focused on is just this one component with the self-directed IRA. As you can see here, the solo 401k has higher contribution limits, so this is normally the first thing that we do. And the self-directed IRA allows us to say, hey, great, if we want to stick with IRA accounts, this is the way that we're able to self-manage that money, as also we have additional contributions on top of our solo 401k. Great, so let's talk a little bit about checkbook controls. So if you have a normal IRA account, right, we'll start here at the very beginning. A normal IRA, you have no ability to control your investments and you have no checkbook control. An IRA account typically is just, hey, you have money in the account and it can go into index funds or mutual funds or something like that, right? Now you have a self-directed IRA, which gives you a little bit more control. You have to have a custodian, and then you have to talk to that custodian, and that custodian can then make investments for you. Well, that's better than mutual funds, because now at least you can buy a piece of real estate with your retirement funds, but you have all of the complications and costs with having to use a custodian, and the custodian is part of all of that process, so it slows things down. A lot of times you're having to pay them for every individual piece of work that they do, and it can really bog down the process quite a bit with it. So the last thing that we're able to do then, the very best thing you can do, is you have a checkbook control IRA with the self-directed IRA with the checkbook control. And in that scenario, you have your IRA, you have a custodian, but in this case, the custodian's not going to do anything. It's just going to be there for legal purposes. We have to have one so we can use the absolute cheapest custodians. And then we have a checkbook control entity, which allows you to be able to control all of your own investments. So what this means is, as you're being able to save money on all of those fees, because you don't have to pay all of the custodian fees because they're not doing any of that extra work. You don't have any additional extra supervision of people hassling you about like, hey, what is the investment going to look like, and having to go through a whole bunch of underwriting processes that you would have with a custodian, because you're self-underwriting it in conjunction with your attorney staff, which is Royal Legal Solutions, to ensure that you're going to be conforming with the appropriate laws there. And because you're working with Royal Legal Solutions on anything that happens to be in a gray zone or anything that you're unsure of, we can actually provide you the legal advice, which a custodian is not able to do there. So that helps you expedite the ability to be able to take action on that transaction. And you're also able to move more quickly because you're going to be able to control all the aspects of the transaction, signing the contracts, distributing funds, etc. So there's no delays from any third parties about waiting for them to do things or saying, oh, well, the custodian now has to go talk to legal, and then legal is over there saying, hey, I have to do research. And before you know it, you've spent 3 weeks doing absolutely nothing. In this case, with the checkbook control entity, you're able to take all of those actions and manage all of those affairs yourself without getting bogged down with anybody else's issues there. And when you use the checkbook control entity, you're also able to accomplish a number of different things around the anonymity of the ownership of the assets. You can compartmentalize the liability by separating each asset inside of your IRA account. You're able to otherwise mitigate your liability and isolate any risky activities that may be happening inside of your IRA, which could expose your IRA. And a checkbook control entity allows you to do that well. So we have 2 different types of checkbook control entities. The first one we're going to talk about is the LLC owned IRA. So how this works is that you have your IRA account that's right up there at the very top. And then right underneath that IRA account is where you have your LLC. So the LLC is fully owned by the IRA, and that the IRA then funds the LLC. The LLC turns around and makes the investment, such as purchasing the piece of real estate. Now, what's great about that is say like, hey, what if you have $250,000 inside of your IRA and you have a piece of real estate? Say, hey, great, I need $100,000 to be able to purchase that piece of real estate. Well, awesome. Fund the IRA bank account, which is fund the LLC bank account with the IRA funds. So take out of that $250,000, move $100,000 into the LLC bank account, and then purchase the asset directly with the LLC, which you can sign for directly on your own behalf. And we're able to connect you with lenders and help you with all of the processes that would go into place to be able to close on that transaction and doing that. And let's say, great, well, now if there's a lawsuit regarding that piece of real estate, maybe your grandma came to that property 6 months after you bought it and she fell through the stairs and she had a catastrophic injury. Well, hopefully the insurance covers it, but if the insurance doesn't cover it, then grandma is going to sue the property owner. The property owner in this case would be the LLC. Now, worst case scenario, you lose the house, right? But then you only lose the assets that are contained inside of the LLC in this case. So you've only lost that part of your IRA, and then the other remaining parts of your IRA, that $150,000 that you never moved into the LLC, hey, all of that is still protected. They can't get to any of those other funds. They could only get to what was there inside of the LLC. So this is really important for real estate or any assets that you're buying that have individual liability attached to them, though you would want to use an LLC to be able to make those purchases if you're worried about the liability at the asset level itself. Now, we have other clients of ours that have different objectives, right? And what they're looking for is to be able to use an IRA-owned trust in place of an LLC. Now, the IRA trust is appropriate for anybody who's just looking for checkbook control, but doesn't want any extra liability protections. So what we talked about before with the LLC and only losing the amount of money that was placed in the LLC or the assets of the LLC, that's a liability protection. If we're looking at just the ability to use checkbook control, then we want to use a trust. What a trust allows us to do is to be able to do all the checkbook control just like we did with the LLC. You'll be able to skip all of the fees and all of the transactional benefits that we talked about just like we did with the LLC. You're able to, with the trust, you're able to then transact everything just like you would with the LLC in the same speed of transactions. But what you miss with the trust is it doesn't have any additional liability protection associated with it. But with the trust, it's also a little bit cheaper because the trust doesn't have the same ongoing, it has much cheaper ongoing compliance as well as yearly fees associated with it. And also if you're located inside of California or you have other states that have expensive laws and taxes that relate to LLCs, you can use the trust in place of the LLC and help you save on some of those setup costs as well as the yearly fees that you would otherwise have to pay with the LLC. So if you have assets that have individual liability like real estate, highly recommend going with the LLC unless you're feeling like, hey, I don't feel like I'm at risk with using a trust, and I want to use a trust for that and be able to transact business that way and have some cost savings associated with using the trust over the LLC there. All right, so let's just take a second and look beyond the self-directed IRA into this bigger scope of what it is that we do. So typically what you see here is an operating company. This operating company is usually a traditional LLC that has an anonymous trust associated with it. So we can own this operating company, which is like your active business, any active business that you're in. So if you're a real estate investor, this is like the entity that collects your rents for you, right? If you're a real estate agent, this is the entity in which that you sign contracts with and you get paid through for any of your clients. Otherwise, guys, this is just generally speaking, your active businesses, the entity that's contracting with people, the entity that's taking in money, etc. It will own no assets, but it will do everything. And underneath it is where you'll have your self-directed IRA or your solo 401k. And that's because inside of this active income entity, we can then fund your retirement accounts. We can also roll over any old retirement accounts from previous employers into these. And if you have an existing employer that has a retirement account, that retirement account just stays with that existing employer. But anything old, we can clean up and roll in. And we can also distribute new funds into the retirement accounts through this part of the function. We'll also see in here, guys, is the asset holding company. This is where we're typically looking at like different types of hub and spoke models, series LLCs, Delaware statutory trusts, etc., which is used to create your vault to hold all of your assets. So this part of your structure here is for all of your operating company to help you save, help protect yourself personally as well as save money on taxes. And this is your vault to be able to store everything that you built or to be able to have long-term asset holdings for your real estate, etc. Everything will lead up to your living trust as part of your estate plan. So it's all rolled into one trust. Therefore, you're able to avoid probate and be able to avoid any other issues that are legacy planning types of issues. We can update those on a quarterly basis for you. So that way, everything in your assets and everything in your life, when you're done using those assets, is going to go exactly how you want to help take care of your children and help support your legacy there. Lastly, what we look at, guys, is this offshore trust. The offshore trust is for anybody that's a higher net worth individual, typically $1 million plus in total net worth. We say, hey, let's start to consider and look at what these offshore trusts are. We're typically looking at establishing these in Nevis or the Cook Islands. They're absolutely not necessary at the very beginning stages of what you might be doing inside of wealth creation. But once you get above that $1 million, $1.5 million in net worth, that's total cash on hand if you sold everything and converted it to cash. Then we want to start looking at what are those offshore options that can make sense. We're always able to start low and then build as we go. So if you're able to save the money on taxes, you're going to be able to produce more assets to be able to hold in your asset holding company. And as you're able to do that, then you're able to increase your net worth and eventually upgrade into these offshore trusts. And the whole time, if anything happens to you, your estate plan and living trust are going to be the documents that are going to make sure that your loved ones and that your legacy is appropriately taken care of. Cool. So let's just talk about a quick owner's manual, how to use that LLC with the self-directed IRA or the trust. So let's just say here you're able to, you generate $50,000 into your operating company in terms of profits. What you would do is fund and max out your self-directed IRA and then deposit those funds into the LLC or the trust bank account. And then you can invest that money tax-free, or you can make certain loans to that money, including loans to yourself in some circumstances, depending upon how that IRA or solo 401k is structured in those areas. Cool. So we have some frequently asked questions for you guys. So in the self-directed IRA, you're not at any more risk from an IRS audit than you are for anything else, but there's certain things that you have to make sure of to be able to make sure that you're not going to trigger an audit, and that's having the proper reporting back into IRS, which is something that we're able to help coach you on year over year to make sure that you're going to be doing that you're not going to trigger an audit and that you're doing the correct reporting with that. To open a self-directed IRA and establish the checkbook control, it's usually 1 to 3 weeks. Some initial steps can be completed with just in the first couple of days, but in terms of being able to get accounts to roll over, opening bank accounts, establishing the entities, producing all the documentation, operating agreement of those, we usually look at about a 1 to 3 week total turnaround time for people to get fully set up and running. And then it's also very easy to be able to fund these accounts and transfer assets over because you can do them in a couple of different ways. You can do it as like a non-taxable, non-reportable option. And from that, what you're able to do is just put the money directly from one custodian to the new custodian. But you can also opt for like a distribution and rollover transfer. And those, with either one of those things that you do, there is certain reporting that can be required to be able to transfer those funds effectively and make sure they're not taxable whenever the funds are moved over to the new custodian and to your control after that. Because the name of the game here is making sure that we have no taxable events, that we just are able to clean up the operational side of what happens with the money, so that way you're able to do things easier in terms of the investment. So thank you guys so much for joining me here today about the self-directed IRA. If this is something that you would like more information on about how it can exactly benefit you, what would the changes that this would make to your life if you were to implement something like this? What are the costs associated with it in terms of upfront costs and ongoing costs? If you want to know more about how the best practices of the real estate investors that we're working with are using this strategy to be able to retire faster and earlier and be able to get financial freedom quicker, the best thing to do is to take the quiz right now at royallegalsolutions.com. So if you just go on to royallegalsolutions.com and take that quiz, we're going to be able to connect with you about the information you provide us to be able to say, great, here's where we see that you're at, and here's the best practices that we see people in your situation doing to be able to accelerate themselves through the financial freedom curve to the retirement curve into it. And that's something special we're able to provide you because we work with so many clients, over 2,000 clients in all 50 states in every type of asset class. So the thing to do right now, guys, is go to royallegalsolutions.com right now and take the quiz.